Welcome to another episode of Powerhouse Conversations, where we dive into the intersection of sports, business, and technology to give athletes the hustler's playbook for building their brand and for long-term success. Today, we'll explore what it means to hustle for your last name by mastering the NIL space and career building strategies. Our guest today is Eddie Taylor, the Director of NIL at University of Cincinnati. Eddie has played a key role in making University of Cincinnati a NIL program of one of the tops in the nation, right? So earning accolades at the NIL Summit, most recently in Atlanta, and from his expertise in compliance, his focus is on career growth. Eddie is here to share his insights on how to build your hustler's toolkit. Thanks again for coming on, Eddie. How you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Man, I really appreciate it. Like I said, you've been killing it, in the NIL space. Really excited about, learning a little bit about what you've been doing, how you've been doing it. Like I said, at Dream Big Sports, we're merging the technology, the business side, building a business acumen, and merging that with sports, so these athletes can have long-term success and build a legacy for themselves. So excited to have you on.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's start with just tell the people who don't know a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you're at. Give us a little background on you.
So I'm Eddie Taylor. I am the Director of NIL and Innovation at Cincinnati. What that means, fancy title, but I oversee all of our name, image, and likeness initiatives, from helping a kid understand what NIL means to strategic integrated strategies within the external partners, internal partners, the athletes, the schools, everything all in between. On a macro level, I do everything. On a micro level, I make sure that every one of our 449 student athletes has a chance to build their brand.
So I kind of mentioned it, but building a legacy. So hustle for your last name, right? So that's something that we have championed over here at Dream Big Sports, and we're talking about building beyond legacy. So give me some of the ways that you help those athletes create a brand that represents more than just the stats that they accumulate in their sport.
Yeah, so the first thing that I do with every athlete is figure out, what their core values are, who are they. A big problem with athletics is they always say, you're a football player, you're a volleyball player, but they never really ask them who they are outside of their sport. And I really can't do my job without that information. So once we do the pulling teeth of that, sometimes that takes two to three meetings. Sometimes it takes one. But, if you're walking through my door as a 4-star or an unranked kid and you just know it's been football, sports, volleyball all my life, and then all of a sudden Eddie's talking about like who's my target audience, I could see why that'd be a little confusing. So that's the first thing. And then after that, it's kind of, it's dependent on the person. I have some kids that their parents are in the NFL Hall of Fame, the tennis Hall of Fame, and then I have some kids who are first generation college students and their parents never played a sports, and they are the first one to ever do this at this high of a level. So figuring out where they are, what they need, and then I have a really big rule that if you can't explain something to a 5-year-old, you probably don't understand what you're talking about. My favorite Reddit page is r/explain it to me like I'm 5. So I go through my meetings just trying to explain everything to them like they're 5, not because that's their intelligence level, but because I want it to be as seamless as possible. I think a lot of people in a lot of spaces, especially NIL, want to sound really smart and lawyery, and that's important. But for my job, working with athletes who have limited time and we have to be efficient and make impact almost immediately now, getting able to get the message across, and more importantly, the message to be applied, is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, it has to stick, and keeping it simple is the way it sticks, right? Just making sure that they're able to understand it and then obviously be able to take it and use it. And I think that's one of the big things that's important for them. What's some of the pushback that you get from them? I know you talked about them not understanding it, like thinking outside of their sport, but like just what's some of the other pushback that you get?
It varies. A lot of the pushback I get is I can't do it, as like a blanket statement. I can't do it, and then I rebut with why. And, they give me a reason, and I rebut, and I'm always going to win that game. So I can't do it, and I don't want to do it are two different conversations. If you don't want to do it, I'm not going to force you to do it. I have plenty of kids that want to do it, but
Right.
I can't do it is an argument that I have to win because that's not right. So that's one of the pushbacks. Time, and I win that one too. It's more so of just getting them to believe in themselves, because the narrative that the media has spun is that NIL is for the top performers, when that's not really true. NIL is for everyone. NIL is for you and I. Like, we all have brands that we need to build. We all have content we need to push out. We all have KPIs that we need to hit. So I just have to be sure that when they push back, they're pushing back because it's like, oh no, Eddie, I just want to be a student athlete, get my degree. I don't really care about that. That's fine. Go ahead, do it. But if it's like, I want to do this, but I don't think I can, then that's where we have an issue. And I have to kind of, I wouldn't call it butting heads, but politely disagreeing.
Yeah, no, kind of putting things in place for them to understand how they can do it. Because, like you said, it's like you can't force anybody to do something that they don't want to do. But if they do want to do it, and it's just a matter of understanding how to do it and how to find the time to do it, then that's where you're gonna find that success. So I think that's definitely important.
All of our best athletes for the NIL space, the organic, real NIL space, were, I have like 5 names off the top of my head. They all came in saying, I don't know if I can do this. And then I said, all right, give me like 3 meetings. And now they're some of our best athletes in the NIL space. And again, I'm all for, if like, hey, I don't want to do the social media stuff. I'm not trying to make content. You don't want to do it. That's totally fine. Like, it won't hurt my feelings. But I want all of my athletes to know that if that changes, either way, there's always a place for you. And we have, structure in place for you to be taken care of.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that structure, right? So what's some of the things that you find is helpful for them to be successful in the NIL space?
Well, I think it's important for them to know the rules. You can't really win a game if you don't know the rules. So they always have, I kind of call it my second brain on their little digital platform that they have. I have a couple like one-sheeters, videos, different things that they can look at all times. I kind of give them the basis of like if it's 1 a.m. and Eddie's asleep, and I want to, for some reason, email this brand, this is how I should structure it, or this is how I should go about negotiating, just blanket. But, for a lot of them, that's really all they need. And if there are more specific use cases, then we go over it one-on-one. But I make sure they always have all of that available at any time, because I don't want to be the crux. I don't want it to be like, oh, he's busy, so I can't do it. No. Go, you got it. That, and then also putting them in position with their teammates. So on every team, I have someone who's like kind of my NIL captain, I guess you would say. So I know, like, hey, if I'm trying to get an initiative going with a team, for example, hey, we're trying to get your jerseys listed online, I'm going to you to rally the troops. So, and that person isn't always the starter, or that person isn't always a team captain.
Right.
That person is just like, hey, this person's doing NIL. So, you have your locker room cred. Like, your best players get respected immediately because of their on the field performance. Well, on one of my teams, one of the athletes has 5 brand deals, and they're all really big brands. So they're just respected because they're influencers. So they can like have some aura in that domain. So being able to, which is brand new with NIL, but giving them some authority to be a leader in that domain and really be like, no, I'm good at this. I like this. And I can like help my team in this, because when you do more brand deals, I can then tell recruits. And then when I tell recruits, the recruits want to come, and recruits come, we do more brand deals and we win more games. And it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Right. No, because that's definitely big, because even when you think about it, like just how football in some way is going, and transfer portal, and recruiting, that's a nonstop thing, and you're playing a big role in that, right? Because the better that you are able to get them engaged, the better story that the coaches have to tell about, hey, you don't have to be this big star athlete, that is doing 1,000 yards on the field to get NIL opportunities. We have Eddie over here who's helping this third string guy who's killing it in NIL, and that's just a something that the story that the coaches are able to tell to any athlete that walks into their building. So
yeah, I would prefer 5-star athletes rushing for 1,000 yards, but I always tell every single athlete, as long as when I talk to recruits, athletes, whoever, parents, I always say, like, if you're on the roster, you're my responsibility. So I really don't. I'm aware of who our best players on the field are, but they're not always our best NIL athletes. And I'm more so focused on that roster of my roster of athletes. So I make sure that everyone, whether you're the starting quarterback or the fifth string quarterback, you're going to get the same, curriculum level of care. It's just a matter of just because of you as an individual, you might have different opportunities. Like our fifth string quarterback might be a mechanical engineer and we're, looking at company A, and company A might want to do an internship / deal or whatever. And then our first string quarterback might be up for the Heisman, and then that's a whole different thing with Nissan. So
Right.
it's just, I try to tell them not to compare themselves to anyone else, let alone their teammates, but to just look at what's working and see how they can integrate that into their own content sphere.
No, you actually brought up a good point, and this wasn't on my, some of the things that I wanted to talk about, but it just made me think about like how have they been able to balance that, right? Of just the comparison, just like looking at other, like that's something that previous athletes, didn't have to necessarily be concerned about because, like I said, it's the NIL wasn't there, so what they're getting is all published and public information of these big athletes. And then when you're talking about some of the smaller athletes, they are looking at some of the other athletes around, and then they still have to go perform on the field. So is that something that you've been seeing and something that you have to talk to them about?
No, not really. Most of the time, we have really good kids. Like I don't really have any like headaches or anything like that. So maybe I'm an outlier, but the only thing I have to explain to them is they'll send me a deal on Instagram. They'll be like, "Hey, look, this girl did this guy did this. Would this be a possibility for me?" And some of the times it's like, okay, well, I have to getting into the business side of things. Like I have to be like, well, you could, but most likely this probably was because they're a corporate sponsor of that school, and that's why they picked this athlete. I'm not saying that's like always the case, but
Right.
like I don't know that school, I don't know those people, but if I had to guess, doing a quick Google search of the. So
Yeah.
I think it's been a great teaching tool for our athletes to learn the business side of sports. I've had a lot of kids be like, this is interesting. Like, I want to work in like finance, or I want to work in NIL, or I want to work in like even some of them are like, I want to work in trademarks and licensing because all of this licensing stuff is so interesting. So it's been a great teaching tool. That's what I think the best part about NIL is that they can go in and they can do things right on the spot. Like we can say, hey, this is how you negotiate. All right, go negotiate, and they don't have to wait. In class, you read a book, you do homework, and then you probably won't use that skill for 2 or 3 years later. Versus, if an athlete's like, hey, this brand offered me this, I want to talk about it. And then we have a negotiation session and we do a mock negotiation. And then they go, okay, cool, I'm ready to go. And then they go negotiate and they do it. And they're like, that was great. It was
Yeah.
scary, but great. Then skills applied. And the best part about NIL, like specifically the niche best part, is the extreme lack of time between input and output. Because once Eddie and athlete go over education, do it. They all have homework after, so it's like, okay, you're gonna negotiate. Like, you have a brand deal, go negotiate it up, or go negotiate like something different. And so they don't have time to compare themselves to be like, that's what stops any 18-year-old, is like comparison. What are they gonna think of me? Blah blah blah. I make sure that they don't have time to do like boom boom plays, just like in the football field. We're going NASCAR, no huddle. Like that's how we run our NIL program here.
No, I love, and that's kind of some of the things that I think are very important is that the transferable skills that they learn that are going to be useful for them in the workforce, regardless. One of the things I've been speaking to athletes about is, regardless of how great of a career you have, let's say you have the best career ever. You play for, let's just say 10 years, like you have a really, really, really great career. You're mid 30s when you're done playing, like max, and you're still going to have to go figure out life after that. And so the skills that you're going to learn by, like you just said, going applying and doing these things and learning fast and failing fast, that's going to be super important for their development and their skill set. And I think that's important to, them just living life and being a great professional in whatever, whatever field that they go into outside of sports. And so I think that's good that you're getting them to apply it fast. And the other thing that I thought about is the ability to fail and get no's and get like I've been in corporate for over the past decade, right? So and you have to learn that you have to build up that skill of hearing no. And a lot of younger kids do not have that skill of understanding that no, getting those no's. So going out and getting that no is very important to their development as well.
Yeah, I always say, second or third meeting, I start to teach them how to reach out to brands the right way and not the way that, their friends teach them to. But that first no always hits them like a brick. And it's like, oh, this brand told me no. And I was like, yeah, most of them will.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean most of them will? And I'm like, yeah, I always say, in baseball, you only need to hit 3 out of 10 and be in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, in NIL, if 1 out of every 10 brands says yes to you, you're doing great.
Right.
Maybe let's not DM 100 brands, but you know what I mean? Like, I think another part back to the business side is I have to tell a lot of our athletes, like, hey, yeah, the media is pushing this $1 million deal, but how much of that was a collective? How much of that was an agent reaching out for them? Some of these like higher end athletes have marketing teams, they have entire staffs behind them versus, you don't want to compare yourself. You reaching out to, the regional size food chain and them telling you maybe is not the same as someone's agent sitting down with the CFO and so there's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes that they don't see. And like the media is not going to say all of that. They're just going to want the clicks and the views, which that's their job. I get it. But so breaking a lot of that down for our athletes has been really big for them.
And so, as we kind of talked about, like the NIL is more than just a financial opportunity. It's the chance to develop their hustlers toolkit, right? I want you to give me like 3 skills that you think athletes should be adding to their toolkit. Like what skills do you think that they need?
The first skill is objection redirection. What they're prepared for is a yes or a no. What they're not prepared for is a question. So, you reach out to a brand and you give them your pitch, you do everything right, and they're like, okay, but what if we did this instead of this, and then we pivoted and did this? And my athletes are like, can I come in real quick? This happened, and I'm like, handle it. What do you mean? So being able to handle a common one is like, I don't think I can afford that. Well, and then you flip it. So being able to redirect things and make things work out in your favor is a skill that I've had to even like get better at myself, because it's not always a yes or no. The questions will trip you up more than the yeses or nos. The second thing would be just consistency, and that's more of a soft skill. But I've seen some athletes, not at our school, but just in general, that don't make what you would call good content. And this is no knock on them, but like you would not call it good content. However, they're consistent. They post every Monday at 2:00 or every Thursday at 5:00, and they do it over a span of 3 months. And because they have the platform of being a college athlete, their views increase, their engagement goes up, and they get brand deals, like organic, real brand deals. And I think if you can really apply that to anything in life, my biggest thing I tell myself is I am never going to make any war about winning or losing, because, that's kind of out of my control. I make every war a war of attrition. So I'm just going to go to war until I give up, because you can't beat someone that won't give up. It's either they win or they die. So just coming up with and consistency looks different to everyone. Like our star football player might only have by himself, doing it by like completely by himself, with no assistance from me, could maybe only push out 3 videos a month. And that's good for him. That's consistency for him. Doing that over the course of a year, probably going to be all right. But, maybe like our track and field athlete has time to do 12 videos a month. And of course, they'll triple his output, but he's also a football player. It's just like consistency looks different to everyone. So figuring out consistency and what that means to you is huge. Every adult, myself, can always refine that too. And then thirdly, I think just being able to plan, but also pivot. So if you come in and you're like, I want to deal with Chipotle. I only want Chipotle. This is it. This is it. Like, Eddie, I want Chipotle. And that's your plan. And we make this whole, hey, this is who Chipotle works with. It looks like they want these type of athletes. You need to do X, Y, and Z based on like the data we have. And then McDonald's offers you. So being able to, because, tunnel vision is great until it's not. So being able to pivot and just being able to be self-aware enough to go, okay, do I care about this that much? Or do I want, because if I sign this 1-year deal with McDonald's and the exclusivity is, I can't work with any other food distributor for a year, am I gonna, so, and that's another soft skill. There's no right or wrong answer to that question, but just being able to have those thoughts and not just go, I want Chipotle, no, just no. So those would be my toolkits. I think mostly everything is based on soft skills. The redirections are kind of a blend between soft and hard skills, but most of the things you need to be successful in life are all mental.
Yeah, being able to have those soft skills to navigate, and some of the things, like you said, they are young and they're learning. So a lot of those things are just gonna it's gonna take time to gain. That's definitely important. I think my kind of follow up with it would be kind of some of these the hard skills, because I know you talked about like just um, how you are managing the, or how you're helping athletes manage these NIL opportunities, manage their posting and things of that nature. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the tech side of things. Like we talked about the business, just talk about like the tech, like what technology, what tools are you seeing people have success with using to help them balance everything?
Yeah, so I tell all my athletes to have a general management system. This is before general management became a whole thing with cap management in the house case, so I said it first. But I have a general management system that fits in an app folder. So, no more than 9 apps. So for me, for example, to manage my content distribution system, it would be Google Calendar, it would be ChatGPT, CapCut, LinkedIn, the actual platform that I need, YouTube, all of those. And it should be no more than 9, because if you're doing too much, you got too much going on. But finding a way to streamline everything is really important. So figuring out where you want to, push things out to, where you want things to go, and then making a really, really concrete plan to get there. And then how tech integrates with that is just, not everyone needs all the same things. I think we can all do more with AI, but I don't think everyone needs Claude or anything. I think using AI to where it makes sense for you, and I think everyone's quick to just be like, "Oh, ChatGPT do this," but if everyone's doing that, how are you going to stand out? So figuring out different ways, like I pay for ChatGPT, so I have the little plugins. So like, how do you make those work for you? Like I have the Canva plugin, so I can, go back and forth ChatGPT, and then it'll put together a nice little pitch deck for me if I'm pitching a brand, and then it'll already be pretty much done. So how can you save that brain drain? To give you a specific example, if I was an athlete, I knew my goal was to not work when I graduated, whether that means I have a big enough brand to, you know, not work from content or I'm going to the league. My number one app on my phone would be YouTube, because I know YouTube, TikTok are my two biggest chances of getting a bag. And what do I need for YouTube and TikTok? Well, if I'm taking YouTube seriously, okay, well, now I have Adobe. So now I have Adobe Premiere or CapCut. I mean, you can use CapCut, but let's just, Adobe Premiere. Okay, what else do I need? Well, videos, I got this captions app. All right, cool. So I can caption my videos, because doing that in Adobe is, so, okay. Well, I got a camera too. So I got the Sony app, and then I have, so like, at no point did I mention AI in that, because this person may not need it. It might be helpful, but in their integrated system to where they have this tech that makes sense for them, these are the 9 apps or the 6 apps that they need. They got their 2 places where the content's going, and then their supporting apps to distribute the content. So figuring out those 9, once you got those down, it doesn't have to be 9. It could be 4 for all I care. But some of my athletes, they're insane. And I think they're insane for this. But some of my athletes, they don't have any editing software. They edit everything in app natively, whether it's Instagram Reels or TikTok, because they like doing it like that.
Yeah.
So some of them don't even have CapCut or Adobe. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to edit this 23-minute videos in YouTube Studio. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
whatever floats your boat.
power to them, because that can be tedious and a lot to me. But no, I think that's important, just because of your ability to understand that you can't have the information overload of all these different apps that are coming out at different times, and making sure that you're being able to manage those and understand them. That's a lot. And so if you break it down into understanding your tech stack from the standpoint of, okay, well, I got something for communication, I got something for outreach, I got something, whatever it may be, understanding what those apps are going to be, and understanding how it fits your ability to get out the information that you are trying to get out is going to be very important to not being overwhelmed, but also being able to leverage and use the technology the way that you see fit.
Yeah, that's why I'm a big CapCut fan, because
Yeah.
you use your camera app to get the camera, let's just say, and then you CapCut it, and then you can distribute it to all your streams from CapCut. So you've essentially don't have to log on to the app to do these apps. So you're cutting down your workflow as much as possible. Your average student athlete has about 2-ish hours of free time a week. So every way I can help them cut down the workflow is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, I love the way CapCut like you edit it and then you just click on it and then it's gonna send it there, then it's gonna send it there, and it's gonna send it to this platform. And then I think that's very important. And then the other thing I was thinking about is I'm a big Notion guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even when you were talking about where you're housing all that information, I use ChatGPT, pull the information that I'm looking for, put it into Notion, create folders, create pages, and that's something that you're able to be able to organize. And like I think you mentioned, like the second brain and just having a home for everything that you're doing. So I think that's super important as well.
I tell all my athletes to use Apple Notes like it's Notion because I'm a big believer of you can over tech yourself and have
Yep.
like I have Loop, Microsoft Loop,
Yep.
just because I have a team of
Right.
interns, so I
Yep.
talked them through that. But just we had Notion, we had Loop, we have all these things, and it's just like, you know what?
It's too much.
I just have a shared doc in Apple Notes. We just kind of
Yeah.
jot down ideas for TikTok and stuff like that. Or I tell all my athletes like, hey, every time you're driving, you see a brand like, oh, that looks interesting, I should reach out to them. Just jot it down in your notes, like.
And even like you said, just from notes, because I use it, so I try to separate, right? So I use notes for like my family, right? And when notes started getting folders and like you said, the ability to share the notes, yes, it's all you need, really, right? And then I even like I think you mentioned before, they'll like athletes will send certain brand deals or TikToks or something like that. I go like if I'm on Instagram, I go to it, I click share to notes, and then it puts that one right there, and it's all like I'll have a bunch of posts that I want to go to or go back to and be able to look at. So yeah, to keep it simple, notes is definitely right there along the lines of all that you need.
And with iOS 18, with notes and reminders and how it
Yep.
integrates into your calendar,
Yep.
you can pretty much, you don't need anything else besides the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, Apple has done an amazing job. Everybody talks about it being late, but has done an amazing job of seeing the landscape, making the changes in their iOS, and then putting the most simplest version of whatever it is into their ecosystem, and it's perfect.
Yeah, Apple is definitely the explain it to me like I'm five tech company.
Yes, yes. No, I love it. I love it. So I did want to get to some of this just with I think we mentioned it a little bit, but the House versus East LA, and just what have you seen? I guess give it a little context, and where are you seeing the future of NIL going with this settlement?
So I think what the House case has done is kind of made a push between what was in college athletics as we knew it and college athletics going forward. I think college athletics as we knew it will be more of the traditional FCS, even high level D2 model of, hey, you're going to school, you're getting a scholarship, you can make any NIL money you want on the side. No one's going to spoon food it to you, but like you got it. And I think going forward, NIL will be more of at the upper level because I guess they'll still be all in the same conferences. We don't know. I don't know yet. If anyone tells you they know, they're lying.
Right.
But assuming we're all in the same conferences here, and we all have minimum floors we have to rev share at, and blah blah blah. I see multimedia rights taking a huge step forward, and every multimedia rights deal will have some NIL component in it. I think schools, I mean, the SEC already took down a lot of their cross country spots. They'll get a lot more conservative with their scholarship limits with certain sports to help, fund the revenue sports, football, basketball at most schools, and then, sometimes baseball, women's basketball, depending on the school you're at. Going forward, I think one, everything will get a lot more competitive, both on the field and then just for resources. But two, I think the precedent to be able to build your brand is going to be huge because, if you're a cross country runner and there's only 10 spots, you make the team at this SEC school on 10 spots. Well, now I think there's 16 SEC schools. Don't quote me on that. You're one of the 120 or 160 best runners in the league. Not really much for you to be in the top 10% now. So now you can really say like, hey, I'm a top 10% runner in the SEC. Here's what I do in a day to get, a run in, and you have high level credibility that you didn't have, that you have now. Like, hey, I'm a runner in the SEC. That's great. But like having that platform, being able to build your brand with that platform, be like, no, like I am in the top 10% of the SEC. I think we've seen it already with Parker Valby. The historic run she had at Florida really put cross country on the map. And now she's with New Balance, but she was with Nike before. Now she's with New Balance, and just she built a huge brand. She did great with NIL, and I think that's going to be more of the thing going forward. And kids really in the Olympic sports, even I'm not even talking about football, basketball, in the Olympic sports where there's going to be less resources allocated, I'm sure, are going to have this almost urgency to build their brand because you might not get cryotherapy. You might have to go out and get a deal with the cryotherapy lab.
Right, right.
I think it's going to push the athletes to do more, and I think that's about all I can say, because if I say anything else, I'm kind of guessing at that point. I don't want to guess, but for sure, MMR would play a bigger role. For sure, there'll be, a resource juggling, and for sure, athletes will be able to take a bigger step forward with their own personal NIL.
No, I think that's going to be definitely a game changer. It's the lines are already blurred between pro and college anyway, but it's going to make it very interesting to see how the athletic departments and the athletes and the corporations navigate. How they're going about their business. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely interesting. We wrap up. I definitely want to, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of give some shout outs or just give me some insight on some athletes specifically that you think are doing NIL right. Like what does right look like? What who have you seen do some good things that's really interesting?
There's a wrong way to do NIL.
Yeah.
I think the media pushes a certain type of NIL that isn't feasible for most athletes, whether you are a high level football player or not. And I think the most important thing is, are you learning something from NIL? Are you building something from NIL? And if 1 and 2 are true, is that sustainable? So all of our athletes at Cincinnati are doing that the right way. It's sustainable. They're building something. They're learning something. A lot to their dismay, they're learning something because I make sure that they're learning something. But and I know they don't want to hear me. My teamwork messages at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Right? Hey, remember taxes? But hey, gotta do what you gotta do. So I think that's the big thing. And I would argue that most NIL departments, we're all in a big group chat, me and the other me's from across the country. We all want to see the kids win. We all want to see the kids do well. I think there's this big, media, like, oh, the kids make more than the administrators now. So like, I really don't care. It's like normal for the talent to make more than if I worked for the Chiefs and I wouldn't go up to the front office saying Patrick Mahomes makes more than me, I'm upset.
Right. Makes no sense.
Yeah. Like, come on, let's do math. Anyway, as far as shout outs, we have a great team here at Cincinnati. I have a lot of support. It's interesting because I run kind of solo, but I have a lot of integrated support anywhere. So if I need something, I can go to any department and get it. Like marketing's been huge, our external relations department, fundraising, facilities, like literally anywhere. NIL is kind of an integral part of our entire athletic department. So I kind of have open arms to run wherever, and I try not to abuse that. But especially our graphic designers, like I have these crazy ideas of things I want drawn up, and they'll put it together in like 12 hours, which I think is insane. So yeah, I get a lot of support here. So I feel really good about that. And then as far as athletes here, I try not to pick out anyone specifically just because, I'm in charge of all the sports. But since this is a special occasion, Gabby Gunther was selected for Meta's NIL Empower program. She's going to the program right now, and she's learning so much. She was also with me at the NIL Summit when we won the award for Best NIL Department. So Gabby was one of the ones where she came in and she was like, I don't know if I can do NIL. And I was like, all right, get in with me. And all of a sudden, here we are, Meta empowered. So that's one of the ones where, Gabby plays tennis. She was a 5-star recruit, doing it the right way. And I hope to produce a lot more Gabby Gunthers in my time in athletics.
Cool. Well, shout out Gabby. I love it. I love it. I love it. Eddie, any final advice for athletes out there hustling for their last name and, that want to leave a lasting impact?
I would say, 1, follow me on LinkedIn. But 2, make sure that you're putting out content that you like. And I know, stay with me, because there's a lot of things that I could do in my role and be like, oh, this house case and all this stuff, but I don't really care about that. I don't really care about cap management. I want to do my thing. I want to make brand campaigns and all. I want to do my thing. So make sure that you're doing your thing, because you're never going to beat the person that never gives up, but you're also never going to beat the person that's just having fun. So if you like fashion and you like doing your OOTDs and, putting it on, as the kids say, and breaking down your outfits, you're never going to get bored of that. And those videos might get 200 views, but you start making better content, you start indexing well, all of a sudden they get 300, and then 400, and 500, and then you're going to do it anyway because you like it. So now it's a war of attrition. So you're going to win. Doesn't matter. So yeah, just do what you like and don't worry what anyone says. I have never, ever seen an NIL director do something and I was like, wow, that's ghetto. Like, ugh. It's because they're trying to help their kids. No one that's doing better than you is ever going to look down on you. If most of the time when you're worried about someone thinking badly of you, it's like some person from your hometown that you will probably never see again. So do what you want. Forget what everyone else thinks. Do responsibly. Don't forget about what your parents think or your grandma or whatever. But most of the time you're good. And just lock in and do your thing. And just make sure you're having fun. If you're having fun, you're probably doing something well and you're probably doing something right.
So remember that you're building your hustler's toolkit on this journey. Just understand, all the great advice that Eddie has given y'all. Make sure that you're taking that in and building on top of your brand. Thanks for tuning in to Powerhouse Conversations, brought to you by Dream Big Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening. I want to make sure that you are building up something that's going to help you be able to leverage the technology, build your business acumen, and be able to have transferable skills that's going to last your lifetime. Until next time, thank you.